Welcome back to Einstein's Disease, where we are providing you tools to help maximize your future by changing the way you think about yes, no, and what you really know. We are into our third block with Marco Russo, the founder of Awakening Growth. The last segment, we learned a whole lot about what exactly Marco does, how he brings his clients on, how he's keeping them, and really shared a lot about just being a real person and connecting with other real people. And so for this part, we wanted to pivot a little bit more introspective, if you will, with Marco. And so, Marco, starting off, when you made the jump, obviously you shared in the very first segment that this was never the intention. You weren't planning to do this. You had a completely different idea for what you wanted to do. And so was there, when you did switch into this, was there a moment of maybe this isn't right? Were you worried, rejection? Was there kind of a self-doubt moment there?
Quite honestly, the answer is no, just because I know who I am as a person. And kind of like what I was speaking about earlier, I know who I am as a person. And I come from a sports background where I was yelled at all the time, never gave up when it comes to wrestling, football, rugby, whatever it so be. And I knew that if I truly committed to something, it would work out. Because one of the most fascinating things in anyone's journey, in your journey watching this, is that there is no losing if you don't quit. As cliche as it might sound, if you just keep going, if you just stick to the path, then you're going to win. And one of the ways you can also outcompete others is just by staying in the game longer. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so when I decided to start this marketing agency 6 months ago, I said to myself, this is a commitment. I cannot get cheap dopamine rushes, get rejected ones, and just keep going on to the next business model and just keep changing niches. I said, no, I'm going to stick with one niche. I'm going to work with roofers. I'm going to do marketing, and I'm going to make it work. And here we are 6 months later through pure focus, through intention, through discipline. And most important thing is consistency. And going back to your question, the self-doubt part, in the beginning of any endeavor, in the beginning of your journey, the mindset is 80% of the journey. It's tough. It's hard out there, especially in sales, where every single time, for every 300 no's, you're going to get maybe one yes, especially if you're beginning out, especially if you don't have conviction in your voice on sales calls, because you don't have any results or any evidence to prove who you are as a person or what you can do. And it's hard. I get it. But for me personally, I knew that this worked because I saw it with my own eyes with people who were doing it. And I was like, okay, if they could do it, so can I. And with who I am as a person, with my personality, with the reason I was doing it. And that's really important, is the reason you're doing what you're doing. A lot of people don't really know why they're doing what they're doing to begin with. And if you could ground yourself in the reason, if you could ground yourself in the truth and what you're trying to seek, because there's an end goal to pretty much any endeavor, right? Like you don't just do something randomly for the most part. You have an end goal, you have a goal, you have an ambition, you have an aim. Maybe that's change your life. You want to be location independent. You want to start networking in these different groups, and you got to get there. And me personally, I would say the biggest thing that kind of allowed me to keep going is just knowing my why and grounding myself in that. And I don't know what your why is. You have to find that on your own. But that, in addition to consistency, discipline, and who I am as a person, is why I've been able to kind of make success of the company.
Absolutely. And just talking to you through this taping, it is very evident that you're passionate and you care about what you're talking about. And so I can only imagine how your clients see that coming through over the phone. And so when you were first doing those cold calls, was that hard? But like, what was kind of the hardest part of dialing a phone? I can't imagine. I'll be straight up. I'm not built for cold calling. And so I'm dying to know, how did you really get over okay, two questions. Did you ever have a maybe this is the wrong thing moment? And two, if you did, how did you keep going after that?
Well, let me start by saying cold calling isn't fun. It's not fun at all. Especially what we say is in the trenches. When you're in the trenches, you're like going through the thick of it. It's hard, it's painful, but you have to do it in order to pop out to the other side. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you are the investment. You are the investment. It's gaining the skills. It's learning everything from the foundation up, because the skills are what's going to take you long term. If you've been doing it for 6 months, one of the people, for example, who I really look up to in this space is Alex Hormozy. And Alex Hormozy, the first 3 years of his company, sold his gyms, dealt with bad business partners. And over the course of the following 5 months, after those 3 years, he made more money in those 5 months than he did in those past 3 years. And why? It's because he, as a person, was the investment. It's about developing the skills that will take you long term. And once you have those skills, the sky's the limit. And for me personally, I was like, okay, this is going to suck. It's not going to be fun, but I'm learning sales. I'm learning how to talk to people over the phone. I'm learning how to basically get a stranger to work with me. And over the course of, a turnaround period of like 1 week. And it's like, how can I make that possible? And when you really ask yourself, and when you really dedicate yourself to something, the world is yours, to be honest. But to your question, there were times of doubt, but I knew it was going to work out. In the beginning of your journey, it's 80% mindset, because just those rejections are painful. And especially when you get really, really angry people on the phone, and they're cursing at you, telling you should change what you're doing. It's never going to work. And I'm like, I don't know you. Why are you saying this to me? I'm just a random guy.
Right. It's
Just
insane how people talk to one another. Random
no,
strangers.
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. But it paints a picture, and that lesson, a bigger picture, and that is ignore the noise. Ignore the noise. Focus on the work. Ignore the noise of maybe people in your family telling you it's not going to work out. Ignore the noise. Focus on the work. Ignore, maybe those friends that you thought were close to you that just don't support you. Focus on the work. And through that, through focusing on what you actually can control and not what you can't, that's what actually matters. Because again, going back to your why, to your reason, you take those outcomes, everything you desire, everything of that dream version of yourself, you put it down on the vision board, and then you say, okay, what are the daily actions I can take to get there? And through those, and those actions included 200 cold calls a day for months straight. And that's not fun, but it's hard out there. It is. I get it. And for those that are starting, there is no way around it. Just like I spoke about with media buying and running the ads, there are no shortcuts. And that's the ugly truth that you have to face when starting something new.
100%. And if marketing doesn't work out, you'll probably have a great future in personal growth
Yeah.
and helping other entrepreneurs. You're really great at this. You should write a book.
Might. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I might.
Yeah, of course. And so now it's been about 6 months since you started all of this. Is there anything that you would go back and change if you could?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, because there are mistakes I made along the way. And one of those is stop thinking you can do it all yourself. In the beginning of my journey, for the first 3 months, I had very little to no success. And it wasn't enough to be like, marketing is great. Let's keep going. This is so cool. I'm signing clients. No, that was not fun for the first 3 months. And that's because I thought I could do everything myself. And I really do think ego killed me in the beginning, quite honestly, because, I'm 23. I did a bunch of things beforehand. I went to university, got good grades, studied abroad twice. And I thought I was like, oh, I could do this myself. I could do anything, right? I'm trying to, ego that. But I would say invest in mentorships sooner than immediately, quite honestly. And, because when I first joined a mentorship, that really taught me everything I needed to know. It just made the growth of the company exponential, not linear. And, just a little quick side tangent. What's really cool about success is that success is exponential and not linear. So it's not like, for example, like what I spoke about with Alex Hormozy, 5 months, you made more money than in 3 years. And that's because you are developing those skills. You are the investments. And that's what matters at the end of the day. And so when you win, you win. When you lose, you lose. Kind of like the saying, when it rains, it pours, right? Like when you start getting clients, it leads to referrals, you get results, and it's all a numbers game at the end of the day. Marketing, and honestly, anything in life, it's just a numbers game. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And I would say invest in mentorship sooner. Don't think you could do it all alone, because you're basically competing against teams out here, people that talk about marketing all day in groups. And what you can accomplish in one day or in 1 month you can accomplish in like just a few days with 5 guys sitting around a table talking about marketing, how to market, how to get better results, how to fix problems with the company in all aspects. So invest in mentorships and start sooner.
Absolutely. And so when you did go and get a mentor and you spent this time with them, what is the one big thing that you took away from that you're implementing day to day with Awakening Growth?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things I learned from the mentorship was that when you see people through having true success with their company and doing everything you want, that dream version of yourself, and you're like still at the bottom, still kind of like ground zero, but you meet these people in person, you see them online, you're constantly talking to them, and they're like 10, 20 steps ahead of you. You ask yourself, if they can do it, so can I. Because if they're human, I'm human, just like what I was speaking about earlier. And it's just a matter of time in. They just simply put more time in than me. It's not that they were smarter or had a higher IQ than me. It's just that they did the inputs, they did the work, they went through the pain, and now what they're doing, they popped out the other side and they're teaching everyone who wants to get there. And it really does something to your subconscious. It's like, wow, this is really possible. Because another big thing too is that in this online space, and everyone's working virtually, a lot of people think people are scammers and that the lifestyle isn't true of just travel and just excitement. And I get it. But when you see it with your eyes, when you get inside these groups and you see that it's really possible, and that these people who are doing it are no smarter than you, don't, I mean, they worked harder than you in the beginning, but you could be working harder than them now if you do 3, 4x what they're doing right now. And that once you realize they're just human, you can do it. And then maybe it wasn't like a technical thing or like something I should say on the sales call that I learned that like changed the course of the company, but rather deep belief in what I'm doing and that knowing it's possible really accelerated the growth of the company just by seeing it with my own eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I totally get that. And thank you for sharing. I definitely don't know many people that have taken a mentor, but it's not exactly like far-fetched. And so it kind of just, when you first told me that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But we'll jump off for our last break here. Marco, thanks so much for joining us today. We will be back in just a minute.